Bria
Right.
was amazing.
Fuck the Ducks, indeed. Hello,
Hey,
Alex.
hey, sorry about that.
You're a monster.
I know. Do I sound okay?
Yeah, you sound fine.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sounds
it was Discord was like I couldn't launch it. Like I could launch it
Oh,
on my
weird.
phone. I could launch it on my phone. I couldn't launch it regular style, I guess. Hold on one sec.
Weird.
I know. That's what I was saying.
Why are you so bad at technology?
I'm not. It's just randomly shit
No,
breaks.
sounds like you are.
You know what, Ben?
Yes.
I may have to shank a fool. Did you throw the link in here?
Oh, that's right. I posted it to Twitter.
What's a Twitter?
Exactly.
Exactly.
What the?
Oh man, Alex, you'll love this. A couple dudes in the neighborhood here flooded a section of the field right outside of my house to make a little skating sheet for people.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna take some of my pucks and just see how terrible I am on my skates after like 15 years.
Oh, dude, my skates are too big, and it sucks because I already paid for them, and I have to get custom sized skates. Like, there's nothing I can. I mean, they're not too big in the toe; they're on the sides. But I have like big feet and skinny ankles, so like, there's really not. It was sort of like if I tried Bauer or True or anyone else, it was painful. So I went with CCM, which I don't usually wear, and the CCM, like my heel's locked. It's fine. You know what I mean? Like But lateral, like they're loose.
Ooh.
I can. I mean, I could probably stuff them with like bunga pads or something. But
that would suck though, because like you're gonna catch an edge just from the wobble.
Not a choice. Not a choice. I'm less worried about catching an edge and more worried about getting like breaking an ankle. I mean, it's not that they're not that loose. I can also try to like when I talked to the guys at the skate store about it, because they'd already ordered it like 2 pairs, and they were like, we're not doing this again. And I'm like, I feel like, because there's nothing you can do. Like you get measured, but until the skate comes in, and when you're like a 14 and a half, which is where I am, like it's just forget it. So they the guy was like, you could just strengthen your ankles. I'm like, how the fuck do I target the weight of my ankles specifically? Like that is like I told the guy, I was like, here's what's gonna happen, because I'm in good shape. I work out all the time, but I'm still tall and thin. So like when I do gain weight, it looks like I'm smuggling a basketball under my shirt, right? Like that's where it's gonna go. It's gonna concentrate there. I'm like, I can't be like, yo, let me just squeeze you down just to my ankle region. Jackasses. It's not. It's fine. Honestly, I was all about playing, and then COVID hit, and the facilities closer to me that would be convenient are a pain. If I were in San Jose proper, like San Jose Ice is so great, but I'm not. So okay.
Like we tried to take our daughter to this one swim hall yesterday, and as we're walking through the parking lot, I remembered, because I hear a very familiar sound, that on the side of the lot of the swim hall, there's a literal barn ice rink. That's like open air ice rink, and it's, I was telling you about, it's -17 here. So I stopped and peeked, and man, it was a bunch of just people playing, but it was great.
Yeah, it sounds awesome.
All right, let's get into it.
Yeah, let's get into the podcast here. Episode number 208, right?
Correct.
208. All right, Ben, you ready? Colin, you
Always.
ready?
Yeah, let's smash into it like it's Bedard's jaw.
Oh, jeez. Okay. I'm gonna wait till Ben calms down, and then I'll start. Thanks, Colin.
Oh, Colin. Gotta keep it real, huh?
Kids gotta skate with his head up, man. I saw that hit. That was a clean hit.
Yep. I was telling Ben.
This is the unfortunate thing of youth, is that they don't do that.
Every kid should have to watch Lindros.
Yeah. Okay, ready? Hello and welcome to Circling the Cup, San Jose Sharks podcast number 208. We are back after the holiday season with some merry Sharks cheer. Well, maybe. It depends on what you're looking for. I will say this. I think it's about where we were kind of thinking and hoping it would be versus where it was in the beginning of the season. I'm Alex, as always. Here with me, as always, is the Honorable Ben. What's up, Ben?
For Christmas, we got an 11-game losing streak, and I'm not sure whether that's a present or coal.
You know what's really funny is it could have been Hanukkah, but then they went a couple of losses too far there. And of course, you can hear that chuckle all the way from Sweden via a tin can with a long ass piece of string. Is Colin? What's up, Colin? Welcome back.
Yeah. I think they've been entertaining losses. Like they haven't been 10-0. Just what the hell are we doing here? Losses. So
Well, let's
Yet.
we're good. We're good.
Let's hop right into that, right? Because, and I'm sure folks are probably sick of hearing us have the same conversation, which is why we don't podcast weekly anymore, unless there's really news to be had. But the Sharks have shifted from losing horribly and embarrassingly to maybe the best in the league for a month to crappy again to now 11-game losing streak. Now, the difference with this 11-game losing streak from the previous 11-game losing streak is that the previous 11-game losing streak or 10-game losing streak, it was appalling. Here, most of these losses in this streak are pretty close losses and pretty decent games for the most part. I mean, the Sharks are keeping up, at least in shots, which obviously doesn't mean everything. But again, if you go back to that original losing streak, ooh, they definitely weren't doing that. So, we've been asking guys pretty much all season and since the offseason to lose as best you can. And by best, we mean as well played or close as you can, right? Because from our perspective, we want that high draft pick because this is not a playoff year, but we also want to make sure that players are progressing. Now, let me throw the curveball into this conversation for you guys. And that curveball is that works assuming, again, that you're playing the guys that you intend to groom or keep around, right, for this sort of next phase of Sharks hockey. And obviously, Eklund is one of those guys. He is playing regularly, which is great. Guys like Thrun sort of up and down a little bit. So for you, how has this losing streak been? What have you thought was good? What are you hoping shifts? Where's your head?
Okay, I'll go because Ben and I kind of opened up on this one before you got here.
Sure.
So this losing streak has brought me around to what you two have sort of been saying all season, all last 2 seasons. I'm starting to think maybe Quinn isn't the best coach because the players have been showing up, and I think at times they've been showing up from the first puck drop, and then the line changes, the play calling within face-off situations, like all the stuff that actually coaches are supposed to be doing, it just seems like they're not capturing the energy that the players are starting to bring and have brought, since the horrific start. And I'm like, okay, I have nowhere else to point to but the coach here. Because even sometimes in the offensive zone, there's good stuff happening. And it seems like the players are being given freedom and leash to find plays and find opportunities within a structure. But again, the tying of it all together doesn't seem to be happening. And I'm losing land to stand on to be like, nah, let's give Quinn time. Let's figure it out.
I think the thing that I find annoying about the Quinn situation is, he's an all right coach. He has been an all right coach at the lower levels. Maybe not stellar. I mean, you can look at, Boston and you can say, well, half the time that's the roster. He also, has done some decent work with the US team. But here's the thing is that, there have been a lot of sort of reports and conversations about how, this is a little bit similar to Detroit or other areas that are rebuilding where you have a coach there for the really bad years as a stopgap, and then you bring in a much better coach for when you're ready to sort of make a run. And I get it because not a lot of coaches really want to take on a rebuilding team, at least not air quote good quote coaches. But at the same time, like I don't really want bad coaching when I'm trying to get that team built, that core built, those players developed. You really, I would think that while I mean, I would have to think there aren't a lot of coaching jobs in the NHL. Now, obviously, the Sharks not the most appealing team, or at least weren't when they were doing their coaching search, and we kind of know that because of a lot of what leaked in terms of who was actually having conversations with the team, and sort of their feelings on what Hasso was asking for, right? Which was not to rebuild, even though they're very clearly rebuilding. So I don't. Quinn has a few pros, but they're not enough, and he isn't managing this team in a well enough way, from my perspective, to accomplish what I want to accomplish. Now, I guess again, I bring this up because my question is that fine? Do you guys prefer to wait and then get the right guy in, or would you rather have someone who actually is really micromanaging, I guess I would say, and focus on that development at that coaching level while we wait the 3, again, it's probably somewhere between 3 and 5 years. Even when you look at Will Smith and his play in World Juniors, he doesn't quite look like a player they're going to call up next season unless, he has a stellar camp. He's probably another year out, likely, right? So I don't know. Where do you fall, Colin? I heard you start to
I want to throw one stat out before Ben gives us his thoughts. The Canucks have had 5 coaches in the last 10 years. So, like, is it actually going to be Quinn, or is it going to be Quinn plus 3?
I don't think you hire.
Go for it, Ben.
But see, here's the thing, though. The Sharks are typically, now new GM. I get it, but a lot of the same ownership and management. Typically not very fast to fire. In fact, I would say that's been one of their flaws. Not that you want them to fire every 5 seconds, but they took an extra season or 2 on DeBoer and McClellan. Those guys again came in. They were good the first 1 or 2 years, and then it became pretty clear what they were going to do. Everything became very telegraphed, and it was what it was. I don't think you want constant shakeups either, and I don't think the Sharks are going to do that. I think when you hire a head coach, especially as a new GM, you're inking that for probably 3 years minimum, and then check-ins after that for extensions, depending on how well that's working out. The same way you would hire a GM. You don't hire a GM for 1 season and give them 1 season. That doesn't really work, right?
Well, is it my turn?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think GM and coach, different things. I think GM, since they're the builder, you should be a little bit more patient with them. Coaches, coaches in the NHL are almost 100% replaceable. They're all empty suits. There's again, 3 or 4 guys that are a plus. And, David Quinn is not one of those guys. He's just not. He's never going to be. Everything you said about how coaching works in the NHL is what's wrong with coaching in the NHL, and this is a team here that would benefit from taking a different approach to a coaching search and what you're looking for, right? Because you're correct that this is a rebuild, right? And what you should be looking for in your head coach is somebody who wants to be there right now.
Right.
Not somebody who's I don't want to go into that situation because I'm going to lose a bunch of games. Well, fuck you. That's not what we need, right? We don't need a guy who doesn't want to go into the situation because of their record. What we want is a guy who wants to be there at the beginning.
Architects. Right? We need architects on both in both positions.
Yeah,
and I agree with you there. Yeah,
and David Quinn's not that guy, very clearly, because he has no interest in developing the young guys, and that's very clear.
I mean, clearly doesn't tell you about his record, though.
Well, I mean, if he did, he should resign. Again, I don't know how much he knew what he was getting into, right? I don't know what sort of smoke was blown up his ass about where this team was. He's clearly not very good at evaluating personnel, so it's not like he probably knew he was coming into a rebuild. So with all of that said, he's the wrong guy, and I think this is the time you need to find the right guy because, as you say, you've got Eklund here who needs a guy who's going to be pushing positive development and not just relying on Eklund getting by on his natural talent, which it's great to see that it really does exist, and he's seems to be growing in that sense on the ice. but there's a whole lot more guys who should be getting more time at this level right now. Who even guys who are on the roster, who sit, not coincidentally. I'm going to say this: when the Sharks were winning games in December, they were winning games because they had made some forced choices on the defensive side due to injury to play some of the younger, more offensively capable guys with the pylons. Now, once guys got healthy, we suddenly have pylon pairings again, and the Sharks suck. What a shock, right? And again, that's where I say David Quinn has no idea what good looks like, and that's the problem here.
Let me ask you this though, right? And this is not in defense of Quinn. This is a question, right? Because the Sharks did change quite a bit in terms of their coaching staff all the way down the pike, right? And all of that. Like, yes, they still have a lot of the same management in, and obviously that management seems to have a very loud voice and stuff from what we've seen over the years. But you've got a lot of new player development people. You've got, McCarthy down there with the AHL, not the Barracuda doing particularly great. They're ninth in their division. How much of it do you think is squarely Quinn in terms of calling those people up, and how much of it do you think is an issue with the system itself? Because here's the thing.
It's look,
if it's just Quinn. If it's just Quinn,
no,
I'm okay.
There's talent problems here. There's talent problems here too. But the issue also is that he's playing the worst players.
Yeah. But
right.
But what I'm asking specifically is, there's a whole system of evaluation of a player. That information gets fed to Quinn. Quinn's not watching every Barracuda game, likely. Maybe he's getting video feeds in, but he's talking to the personnel throughout the organization for player development to do checks. I mean, if you're responsible as a coach, it's what you're doing,
Look,
right?
We don't know, but the point is from my perspective, is that I mean, obviously, I think there is some culpability in terms of the general manager. Why the fuck we traded for Jack Studnicka, who was a never going to be guy. I can't understand, right? I mean, granted. I'm kind of glad to see the defenseman that went the other way go, because he's also not very good. But I think as coach, you control the lineup. That's what you control. You control the systems. That's what you control.
Yes, correct.
And as part of controlling the lineup, if you really, really fucking wanted one of the young guys off the CUDA, then your job is to go ask for it, right? And if you don't get it, then you should be on your way out. Because you're not getting what you need in terms of support, right? Like, so I don't think it's completely an org problem, because you're the coach. You have an NHL roster and a plan and what have you, and your job is to, if you're not getting what you want, go into the GM's office and pitch what you want. And if you don't get it, then leave.
Yeah.
That's kind of the way I look at it.
I mean, clearly the organization at that point doesn't have enough faith in you to allow you to make the decisions you need. But there are organizations, again, I'm not saying the Sharks are necessarily
for sure.
There are a lot of organizations like this. We see this all the time.
We don't know, but I have gotten the sense that even if GMMG put Bordeleau on the NHL roster, we would still see Luke Cunnin instead.
Yeah.
Because there are guys who get minutes they shouldn't get, and they get to play, at times that they're put on lines they shouldn't be on. It's very clear that Quinn has favorites, and that those favorites are the guys who look like they're working hard when they're not very good at hockey. And that's the problem, right? Because there is a way to tell very easily that actually that guy sucks, even though he gives his all and he's probably very good in practice. It doesn't, you don't have to just rely on the practice eye test and the fact that he's your coach's pet to make that play decision. That's a problem. That's a real fucking problem. That's a problem of process, which again, my whole thing is that, if you're going to lose, put some good process in place. So when you're not losing anymore, you're getting the maximum out of the pipeline, the players, the support staff and everything. And there is no evidence that
Yeah.
Quinn is that guy. That's
Right,
my
well,
issue.
No, and I agree. And again, that wasn't in defense of Quinn. It was a question because again, I think one of the things that a lot of fans like to do, and I don't mean you specifically, Ben, in general, is you look at the one hot thing, and you point all your fingers in that direction. Reality is this is an organization. There are a lot of things that need to go correct on a lot of different levels, right? And so with your AHL development, with your individual player development, with your physio. All those things really need to be good. And much like the rest of the roster, it has to be timed well. Because, the other thing I keep seeing is the whole Celebrini or, whoever that come up. And again, look at Bedard. Look at Bedard right now. Well, not right now because he's obviously injured. But, it not that I think the Blackhawks suddenly thought they were going to be the greatest team in the league just because they had Bedard. There are a lot of fans that certainly thought they were magically going to be good because they did. The reality is you need more than one player, and it has to be timed correctly. And again, a lot of that has to do with that larger system. I agree with you, Ben. One of the things that frustrates me about Quinn is I don't see a on ice system that looks good and that makes sense for the players I think we have coming up. And that's what's always kind of concerned me about the Sharks, at least in recent years, with their coaching staff, is anytime they've gotten youth, they've sort of, I haven't felt like they've looked at that youth and figured out what it was they drafted. What are you? You can change a player to an extent, but not 100%, right? Right. So if you drafted, let's say, hey, we think Bordelot is going to be a future piece. We know Eklund's going to be a future piece. We know Will Smith's going to be a future piece, or we hope he is. Musty, Thrun, Mukhamadullin. Okay. How do these guys play? How do we build a system that caters to their strengths and hides their weaknesses as much as humanly possible, or help develop those weaknesses so that they become more even keel? That's fine, but I haven't seen that. And I haven't seen that from the Sharks in a long time.
Hurdle is such a perfect example of what you're talking about because, like, he hasn't come into the Hurdle that like the pre-knee Hurdle or even, post-knee Hurdle and being, chipper and joyful and full of energy, but he's stepping up. And so many times it feels like he's trying to find where he's supposed to be to try to play his role. And it's not that he's doing badly. It's that it's the wrong place or it's the wrong little thing because of everything else around. And it's just, he's trying to figure it out and his line mates are trying to support and the players are trying to work together. And you see that energy and sometimes it clicks and it's really good. But again, as you say, there's no structure. There's no, hey, Hurdle. It seems like you like using your big butt to push people off the puck. Here's how we're going to capitalize off that. Just drop that junk in the corner, get two defenders on you, drop it out to Barabanov. We're gonna make this work. No, it's like, get out there, figure it out.
I mean, they continue to struggle holding the zone. I mean, that's the biggest issue, right? If you're going to make Hurdle's possession game work, if you're going to get the most out of Eklund or what have you, the big problem is that they're not optimizing the forward trios in any way, shape, or form at any point, and then your defensive core is not very good at holding the line, right? So then you end up in the defensive zone. Hey, that defensive core is also not very good at recovering the puck or moving it out of the zone. So, I still see the same problems persisting, and it is to some extent a talent problem, right? Like, but to that point, it still seems to be specifically intentional player deployment choices.
Yep.
Right? Like Rudd is on the ice and he shouldn't be on the ice, or Okudiuk over Mukhamadullin is a mistake, right? Like, hey, we got two young Russian defensemen. Let's try this one. No, he's terrible. Okudiuk is not good. Let's maybe try to see what Mukhamadullin could do with those minutes. Would be, a guy who wants to actually develop towards Will Smith would be giving those guys some NHL minutes rather. What could go worse than currently is going worse?
They can win. And then all of a sudden we don't.
I mean, you're not. I mean, you're not wrong. And to an extent, if I thought this was intentional, I'd be with you, Alex.
I do think that there is a bit of that going on in terms of not rushing for the sake of
Yes,
rushing. Not that I
agree.
not that I agree with it. And
Right.
and I agree with you too, Ben. I mean, you and I are completely aligned on this, and Colin, I'm sure you are too. But for me, you gotta play to the pieces that you have. Always, like, you should be able to adapt. It's I know a lot of people went out and watched Miracle, great movie. Watch it again coincidentally over this break. But shoving pieces into a system, a hard system, is very tough to do if you've got these guys, and again, they play a certain way or certain style, and you can find that common thread and you can build around that. Like, that's what you ought to be doing. And to your point, Colin, they have been doing this for forever, particularly when it comes to positions, right? Draft 50 centers, and all of a sudden you got to figure out who's your winger, right? And again, is a forward? Sure. Are those slightly different positions? Yes. Do they have different understandings? Yeah. Is every winger a good center? No. Is every center a good winger? Not really. So can Burns play defense and forward? He can play forward.
Yes.
He could play right wing. Hell yes.
But could Couture play goalie if he were healthy? Yeah, yes. Probably.
Yeah.
But again, I think that's where I start to look at things from an organizational standpoint, where, I don't think Quinn is a solution, and I don't think he's helping, because I agree with you, Ben, but the organization itself is also either, I think to some extent, holding some players down, hoping that they'll develop there because, multiple reasons. I don't necessarily think that's the right call, and I don't necessarily think they're developing. Right. But also, I don't see the larger organization taking the pieces they have and building something around those pieces. Like, it's almost like they keep drafting, it's here you go. I'll speak in Ben terms. It's like a tabletop game. It's like Monopoly, but then one of the pieces is a checker.
Oh my God.
And it's supposed to be a card. I don't know.
I use Monopoly.
I know immediately when I said Monopoly, it was going to go downhill. But you know what I mean? It's like you got to have the right pieces in order to play the game, right? You're not playing Monopoly with that has die, right? Yeah. Okay. So you're not playing that with a spinner.
Oh God.
I mean, you could. Okay. Numbers on a spinner. This is devolving.
Here's the analogy you want to use. You can't play Memoir 44 when one of your pieces is a sports car. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we lost everyone. All right.
I believe you. I think.
Hey.
No, go ahead. Tell me what I need to know.
No, that's fine.
Colin, let's shift the conversation here for a second. We talked about how crappy the Sharks are for a while now. You wanted to bring up what's going on with the Women's League, yeah?
Ooh. Well, okay. Now I have two things I wanted to bring up. But
bring them all up.
Actually, I can dovetail these two things.
Okay.
So the Women's League is using a rule now where a team on the penalty kill can end the penalty they're serving by scoring a shorthanded goal. I think this is fantastic. I think this encourages like high speed skating, like talented skating players. It enables aggression on the penalty kill. It creates this tension for the power play where they can't just try to dump all 5 forwards who have no mind of defense on the ice. They got to have one Couture out there to skate back and play defense. I just think it's great. But I realize all the things I love about this rule kind of calls into question our general manager's vision of, giant guys who can go fast in a straight line. And I'm kind of curious. One, what do you think about the rule? Two, is the plan that Grier has spoken about still what we're seeing manifest on the ice, or is it, as you say, these are just sort of a bunch of throwaway parts, and it's like, they're just saying, play some games, we don't really care. Like, is GM is Grier delivering on his vision, on his message? And is that vision and message actually going in the direction that the league is going, with skill skating and, high speed agility becoming more and more prevalent?
Wow, so many unrelated questions there, Ben. Let me hop in first because I know you're going to have a lot of thoughts on this one. So first, on the power play idea, I'd be lying if I didn't say I hadn't had that thought before, or I'm sure many people have when the other team scores. And I get where that would push for more aggressive play. I also think it's a little weird to punish the team on the power play by taking away their power play because the other team scored. I mean, it is and it isn't. I don't know how I feel about it. I have to see more of it. Boy, wouldn't it be even crazier, Colin, if they said, if you're on the power play and you get scored on, now you're on the penalty kill? That would be really jacked up. So I don't know. That's a separate thing to me. As far as the Sharks in the Vision, I think there's a obviously continuing to be a bit of a difference between what Greer says and what Greer does. Not necessarily in a negative way, but this team, is still sort of dancing around the idea that they're rebuilding, even though everyone else is not clearly, right. I get that. I think again, if you look at what he's doing, he's getting younger. We're just not seeing that youth now. So I think the big question is, what is the timetable for that youth? And then obviously we're going to have to see whether or not those youth picks are the right ones. There's some excitement there, right? Will Smith's pretty exciting, although it's kind of tough to tell whether or not his draft number was inflated because he was a center on a line with two really, really good players, or whether he is all the way the player that they're hoping to be. Musty, is looking good at his level. So I think it's going to take time to understand that. But I think his core mission, regardless of what he said, was to reset things. And so he's gotten out of some of those bigger contracts as well as he can, at least. And he's gotten younger and he's gotten some prospects that are exciting. So jury's still out. I don't think that connects to the power play question at all. So I don't know how well you dovetail between the two of them, but that's where I am.
Well, if we look at the team that he's claimed he wants to build, and we look at the lack of system or lack of identity that the coaching is manifesting on the ice, I feel like this is covering your ears, la la la.
I think
I just want a big tough team.
Colin, I think the expectation, and I think a lot of fans have this expectation, so I think this is a really good point that you're bringing up, but I don't think you see a change in identity that quick if you're talking about youth that isn't ready to or isn't coming up yet. Like, we're not really going to see what the personality of this new era or team is until they're playing those guys regularly and those guys are ready to go. So for me, I think you're going to start to see a lot more of that when, hopefully Smith and Musty come up and, Mukhamadullin and Thrum become more regulars and, whatever happens at Bordelot. I don't really have faith that the organization is going to hold on to Bordelot, to be honest, at this point. But, just because the GM comes in, I mean, he could have hired Quinn and they could have set a new identity for now, but I don't think you would see the larger personality of the future yet, because the future's not here. It's got to be here. You want to set the tone for that, right? And start, laying down the foundation for it. But, I think the expectation that, we draft Will Smith. What's our personality now? I don't know. Will Smith's in college. He like Musty's in juniors. They're not here yet. So hopefully they can start again. I think this goes back to the system conversation we were having before. Hopefully we start to see some steady foundation emerge so we can see maybe where the Sharks are thinking that personality is going to be. But I think until you get those players on the ice, you're not really going to know.
How about you, Ben? Do you feel like a rule change that promotes better skating skill and more aggression is better?
I think I love the idea of encouraging aggressive penalty killing and further trying to get the big, tall pylon defenseman out of the game. Is nothing but good. So I fully support a power play system that punishes teams for being stupid about how they penalty kill, encourages scoring, both in the sense that if you have aggressive penalty killing, those guys are going to give up power play goals at probably the same rate that they're going to occasionally, get a shorthanded goal, right? I'm not 100% sure how much I like the the double punishment of both giving up a goal and losing your power play. I need to think about that more.
Yeah.
But I generally like any rules changes that encourage scoring and encourage aggressive play and encourage transition to skilled players, if that makes sense, and away from the Jan Rudas of the league.
Oh man, just poor Rude. I hope someone sends him like a fruit basket or something.
He gets millions of fruit baskets in the sense that
That's true.
there's an NHL team still paying him dollar bills to be on the ice when there's really no indication he should be. To the larger point of Mike Grier, I honestly don't know how to parse his claims versus his actions. I still think that the Karlsson trade wasn't to acquire players that are going to be here when Will Smith gets here, but instead to feature Granlund, Hoffman for trade deadline draft picks.
Right.
I really do think I don't think there's any other way to. Well, there is one other way to interpret that trade, which is that again Grier doesn't know what the fuck he's doing, but I've seen enough from the Grier side of the org, the management side of the org, to get a sense that they have a decent idea of what good players look like, and also decent idea of how to try to accumulate draft picks right now to use over the next couple of years. Their actions seem to signal to me that on that side they know they're rebuilding, even if they won't say it publicly, because why would you, right? But it all depends on what happens over the next month and a half, right? If they don't trade Granlund, if they don't trade Hoffman, if they don't think about trading Ferraro while he has value, then I don't know. You know what I mean?
Well,
I'm kind of in a holding period here, because when you talk about that idea that Grier wants gritty guys who just hit people and make the Sharks hard to play against, and you can't see my air quotes there because the Sharks are very easy to play against.
You can hear
I
it,
can
Ben.
see them.
You can hear them.
Okay,
They were
great.
there.
That doesn't explain a pick like Will Smith at 4, right?
Mhm.
Like Will Smith was the right pick at 4, but you could have also gone Mishkov and gotten more of that physical, play, I think. Granted, all of the other challenges around Mishkov, but I would have made any as a GM in the NHL. If you pick Mishkov, you fucking help him defect right that moment, basically.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I don't know what Philadelphia was doing, letting him stay in Russia. So I guess to that point, excuse me. I don't know. I don't know about his vision. I don't know what happens in the next couple months. I think that the trade deadline will tell us a lot about whether Grier really knows what he's doing or not. With the point that there have been good signs, right? Like moving on from Karlsson was the right thing to do, and getting cap relief and players to use as assets would be the correct plan. We just don't know if it is actually his
the actual plan.
Yeah.
Well, like Addison, I thought was a really great opportunistic pickup.
Yeah.
Well, when I look at Addison, while I really like him and I would like to see him better deployed, he doesn't fit the mold from.
That's true too, right?
GM has said.
Neither does Thrun, right? So he picks up Thrun, he picks up Addison, he picks up Emberson, and these are, when I look at those guys, I go, "Fuck yeah, man! Those are the right pickups." But then, who does his coach play? Ruda, Akodiak. They put McDonald out there as a defenseman in some cases.
Well, again, I wonder how much of this
Burroughs fucking sucks.
I wonder how much of this, and again, this is not an excuse at all for Quinn, but I don't like the organization is potentially doing this, but I'm curious how much of this is, and again, even when you go back to sort of saying, what Grier wants, I agree with you, Ben. I wonder how much of what he's doing now. I wonder if he's doing two things at the same time. I mean, he probably is doing multiple things at the same time, but I wonder if it's as simple as two things at the same time. He's putting together a stopgap and trying to auction off reclamation projects so that he can continue to build youth. Meanwhile, he's holding the youth back that he is bringing because he wants them to ripen at the same time and come up. Now, I'm not saying I agree with that strategy necessarily, but I am curious as to whether or not that is actually the organization's plan. It really has started to feel that way to me. It has felt less and less like Greer doesn't, Greer only wants grit or stuff like that, because a lot of the players that he's picking up who are young are not that. A lot of the veterans he's picking up are that. So, is he trying to buy, 2 or 3 years worth of time here and maybe get a couple of bonus sales out of it, and then has the expectation that now I'm going to unveil the new team and here they are all ready to go? I obviously have reservations about doing it that way, because I can that work? Can all those kids magically come in and have annoying Ben air quote chemistry? Sure.
No.
Sure. It's possible, but that's a die roll that you don't really need to be taking. If you know what you're bringing in and you can develop them together. Like, that's the thing that gets me is I would like to see at the AHL level, at least, I would like to see all the players I want to see developing there, playing the system that they intend to use when they come to the NHL, get them used to that system, get them playing that system, get them comfortable with each other and knowing each other. And then you want to bring them up and ready to go, drop in, fine. But I don't see a consistency between the system that the Barracuda are playing and what Quinn is doing. I don't see the consistencies necessary for that to make any sense, which is why, much like you, Ben, I'm not really rooting for guys to be sitting around in the AHL, because I don't really think their AHL system is doing anything of note.
Well, and we spoke about this at length about Bordeleau. Like, you need the NHL to gain NHL understanding, and every single rookie gets their welcome to the NHL moment. And sometimes they're horrific, like Bedard. And sometimes it's just a really scary hit from something that they should have known to keep their head up, or some other situation. They need to be in those games.
Yeah, I to by the way, further point to poor Bedard is, I do want to point out that, like, they have had, even before Bedard went on IR, they had $35 million worth of players on IR. So I don't think Chicago expected to be this bad. They have been injury unlucky, and then you basically, Bedard was the only forward left. So I'm not surprised he goes in head down, because he's probably feeling like he's got to do everything, right? Like,
yeah,
that sucks.
Yeah, it's terrible.
It's terrible for everybody. But to this point, let me just note here that the 3 top scorers on the CUDA right now are Gushin, who should be in the NHL level.
Yeah.
Gawanke, a defenseman, has 25 points in 30 games. Probably should be getting time at the NHL level. Mook-Medillin, 23 points in 31 games. That's it's not forwards doing shit down there at the AHL level, which is mind-boggling. So what are we doing?
I think that's a big question.
I mean, I guess, look, what I will say is, and again, this is encouraging, is that the Sharks have been willing to move on from some guys and keep them at the AHL level, or just, put them out to pasture, like Knyzhov, Lindblom, what's his name? Shibek, right? Like, I'm glad to see that they moved on from some of the older guys and just, put them out to pasture, but at the same time, the guys who are getting the opportunity at the NHL level are not the right guys, I guess, is my issue. And again, could be intentional, could be, again, like, the plan is that, we need to be bad this year, so we're going to keep playing Cunnin. I don't get the sense that that's actually done for that reason.
I see. I semi do, but where I'm lost is I don't have the confidence that they're doing what's right at those lower levels.
Yeah, that's a problem too.
To make that worthwhile. Yeah. Because I do see situations like Ruda does not belong on the ice. Period. There's no situation I can think of that I would put him in. I wouldn't even put him in to shovel the extra layer of crap off. Like, and I'm sorry, but, like, it's true. But see, the thing is that, like, if I could look down at the Barracuda and go, okay, but I see the system, or again, the systems I thought were going to tie. I'm not really seeing them tie. I mean, I haven't watched a ton of Barracuda. In all fairness, I mean, I'm not down there. I am following them as best I can, but if you're going to do that, then you really have to do it right. Otherwise, you're going to come up and you're still going to lose another year or two trying to figure it out. And again, I think this is where I really agree with you. Not that I disagree with you in general, but on Quinn, is what is the system that is being created to usher these players in? And are these the correct players for that system? Those two things kind of need to be in sync.
Yeah.
And there's no evidence really that there is one. Did he sort of semi-straighten the ship from the laughing stock it was in the beginning of the season? Yeah. Okay,
Maybe.
cool. But does that mean that there's a coherent system in place now? No. And fundamentals are still broken. And they're broken before him. So it's not just a Quinn thing. They've been broken for a while now. So
But
here's the thing that really.
Quinn,
Sorry.
I was just going to remind us that Greer had the talk with the team. So I don't know if Quinn gets a silver star for
I
the
think
team or whatever.
injuries.
I don't think he did.
I think injuries, honestly,
injuries.
again, was what gave us that winning streak, not any intentionality. The larger question here is here's for both of you guys. Is David Quinn a substantially better coach than Bob Buffner?
No,
Ooh.
but I will say this. I don't believe the organization ever really bought into Bob. And so the 1% of benefit difference between the two is at least Quinn has a guy that he wants to work on or look at. Buhner to me was always a mid-season replacement. I was really surprised that he even got what he got out of that. I mean, I think good for him, but I don't think the organization really looked at him as anything serious. And so am I saying Quinn's better? No, but am I saying that at least the organization isn't ping-ponging between like 50 interim coaches in the next 2 years? Yeah. I'd rather have, even if I don't like the steadiness, this is a flawed argument, I know, Ben. Even if I don't like the steadiness, I'd like to at least have a little steadiness compared to I don't think you can have a yearly carousel and develop that system or whatever. Not that I think Quinn is doing it, at least not yet.
Yeah, I guess my. Go ahead, Colin. What's your answer?
I think I'm gonna say Quinn is better.
No. I think he is. I think Buffner's a worse coach than David.
Yeah.
Quinn. I just don't think there's that much daylight between the two of them.
Right.
That's really what I'm saying. And again, like most NHL coaches are at best, replaceable.
Well, again, this comes down to the conversation that spun off in the beginning. How much of this is coach?
Yeah.
How much of this is player?
Yeah.
How much of this is organizational? Because the one thing that is driving me batty is we've now seen 3 coaches and the fundamentals are still all fucked up. We've seen 3 coaches and the same player selections are getting made.
Yeah.
Right? Ultimately. So again, I'm not absolving any one of those coaches. I agree with you, Ben. It's their responsibility. They need to step up where they need to step up and force change if it's not occurring. But I continue to have concerns about the management running the organization, especially since not as many of them turned over as I would have hoped for, leading this franchise into a new direction. Because while we're seeing some change, at least, from what Mike Greer is doing, which is good, I'm seeing the same problems persist, and it doesn't really seem to matter who's being put in. And I can't figure out why that is specifically.
Yep. Like that. Well said. When the Sharks are looking good this season, they look like modern hockey good. When Buffner was coaching, it was like watching like 2013 NHL. And it looked outdated. The team just played in this weird, like, slow way where we didn't have the skill to do the possession thing or whatever he was trying to do.
I don't think
And
Buckner had any control. I'm going to be honest with you. Not that I think he would have been better if he did. I don't think he did.
I mean, if it was all the players deciding that their entire offensive plan was cycle to point and shoot,
No.
then
But I think
woof.
I think they put him on the bench. I don't think he was ever really in control of
You
this.
think he was
of the
just like
team.
a scarecrow back there?
No, and I thought that when they made that move, to me, it was immediately like he's not a permanent thing at all, and they're probably not really giving him much of a leash at all. There was nothing during his tenure convinced me that he was really in control of much of anything. It felt to me like Beecher and all these guys in the back were running the organization more than he was able to. And I could be wrong. I don't know, but again, same management, same problems. So
they just took Buffner aside. They're like, "Hey, Buff, just don't worry about making decisions. Just stand in front of those stupid bail bond people and have fun."
Yeah, we're gonna pay you to be a coach, but hey, you're not like you're more of a figurehead than anything. Yeah, you'll be on ice decisions. There will be a bunch there. We're gonna hire the coaches for you, right? Which is more or less what they did. He didn't bring in his own guys, if I recall correctly. So I'm not saying he didn't do anything, but I don't really believe he's in the same position that Quinn is in.
Well, I think we wouldn't be seeing as much of Eklund right now if we still had Buffner. I don't think Eklund would be skating 17 to 20 a night.
Oh, he might be. I mean, again, the previous decisions were mostly monetary and contractual decisions by the organization. So it all kind of depends. We got a couple of games real quick. We're going to breeze through them. The Sharks in the new year, they continue this losing streak. They lost 5-3 to Detroit Red Wings. They had goals from, I got to try to remember who they had goals from. They had goals from Justin Bailey, Barabanov, Zetterlund. That Zetterlund goal was really nice. I remember that one.
Well done.
Did you guys have any thoughts on this game?
This is one of those, if we could just have figured out some defense, like maybe we could have taken this, like, because like Detroit isn't a scary team, and happy New Year. Let's all just enjoy the holidays and not worry about hockey too much. That's what this game was for me.
Ben, I'm assuming you don't have any thoughts on this at all.
I mean, it's the prototype of what I want out of this season. The Sharks had a lead, 3-2. Then they gave up that lead and lost. So at least they scored 3 goals.
Right.
And then they lost 5-3. That's exactly what I want. They did it.
Fair
Yay!
Point.
I know it seems weird. It seems weird, but that's great.
Pretty much.
Fair point.
That's my thought here. I mean, I think another thing I would say, not just about this game, but about Zetterlund, our goal scorer, is I really like Zetterlund. I like everything about his game.
I am so surprised at how much I'm liking him.
Zetterlund is a guy that is going to be like that perfect sort of leader if the Sharks hang on to him, sort of like the guy who's going to be the veteran presence for Musty and for Will Smith. And I've got I'm here for it because I really like his game.
I suspect
he's going to be our Holmstrom.
I don't think he's the exact same player Holmstrom was.
No. He doesn't have the power, but yeah.
I could be wrong, but I suspect that we see Musty before we see Will Smith.
Oh yeah, probably.
Well,
because Smith is at least one more year in college, right?
That's all. That's up to Smith, really.
Up to him and the organization. But I'm not really seeing a lot that's making me think that he's up again, unless he has like a stellar camp or something. That he's up next year. Musty, with the camp that he had this year, kind of felt like he could be playing now. And seemed a little bit more ready out the gate. We'll have to see, what happens over the course of this year and where that puts him when he comes back around to camp as well. But I don't know. That's not a knock on Smith, by the way. It's just some players are ready faster than others to make that leap. It is a transition.
I mean, I think Musty could. I think you're right. I think Musty could come up right now.
Yeah.
He's
He-
just
he-
playing.
he-
He's playing incredible in the OHL.
He could have made the
Yep.
team. He was great
Yeah.
when we saw looks of him. So I mean, that's more of I think a business move than anything, because why bring him up this year specifically? Next year when you might have Smith as well potentially, which again I don't think they're going to do, but I could be wrong. Then you start having more of that youth come up towards the same time. Again, it feels to me like that's what the organization's trying to do. They're trying to time that.
I don't like this theory.
I don't think it's a theory. I think it's what a lot of teams attempt to do. I think the question is whether or not you do it right. And again, I think this comes back around to the larger question of what is the system you're putting in place? What is the coach? How are you looking at your players? How are you evaluating them and all that stuff? They will go on to lose to the Winnipeg Jets. Hey, lost again, but they lost by a score of 2-1. Barabanov scored. That was a nice goal. Eklund continues to be really fun to watch too. If I recall correctly, that was like a no look. Another one of his little no looky things, which he likes to do. And then they would lose 4-1 to the Toronto Maple Leafs.
This game, man. This is the game. This and the Avalanche game from before Detroit. Like, those are the two games that maybe just be like, Christ, our team can't skate.
Yeah.
Like, it was ridiculous, and the poor goaltenders. Poor goaltenders.
Yeah, I appreciate Granlund. The more behind the scenes stuff I see with him, especially. I know, Ben, you don't watch a lot of that stuff. We do, because we watch the pregame stuff with the boys.
God, why?
Yeah.
Because it's actually fairly entertaining. Although I do miss Curtis Brown quite a bit. Just because it was fun and goofy, and it was good, really good for young kids. But anyway, but yeah, his personality and all that stuff is great too. And he seems to really, be a part, especially on the Swedish side of things, right? It's all the
Yeah.
The Lunds.
the lens, yeah.
Yep.
All right. Well, 3 stars.
Hold on. That passed by Zetterlund to Granlund.
Yes.
Mhm.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like Zetterlund as well.
So you brought up that pass. Part of my brain refuses to believe that pass was intentional, that it wasn't just
Throwing
luck
it at the net.
to get through that gap. Like, I looked at that pass over and over. I'm like, nah, he got lucky. That wasn't intentional.
Well,
maybe it was.
Wow, rude.
We'll never know. 3 stars of the new year, guys. 3 stars of the new year. Who are you giving it to?
I'll go.
Go ahead. Oh, Ben's going
Okay.
first.
My
That means he
third
wants to
star
get
of
it out
the
of the way.
My third star of the new year is Alex.
Oh,
For being here on this podcast in our
Oh.
10th year of doing this.
Yeah, I want to say no. It's the 8th.
No,
Ninth?
it's at least the 9th, because we were together for the season, the bad season before the Cup run, which was 2015, I think.
Yeah.
Yes, right. Yeah.
So my second star goes to Colin.
Oh,
For
this is
being
some
on the
holiday bullshit, is what this is.
And my first star goes to
if it goes
Daniel,
to you,
Daniel
you're off
Gushin,
the podcast.
No,
because he should be
I'll
in
bring
the
us.
NHL.
I'll bring us back to sanity. My third star is going to Martin Jones for somehow finding a way to still win hockey games in the NHL.
Yeah, good for him.
My second star it's gonna go to Zetterlund, because for whatever reason, I just wanted him to be boxed up for a trade like week 1. I was just like, nope, he's just Kunin 2.0. Nope, don't want this. And wow, like I don't want to see him go now. And first star is gonna go to, I think, just Eklund. Like, he's putting up good numbers. He's proving he belongs in the league. I'm like, he's looking good enough that I'm starting to worry, or maybe hope, depending on how you look at it, that he might end up being our Duchesne trade, where he's just, awesome potentially, and people are looking and wanting, and we just flip him for a bunch of amazing pieces, and we all get to be like, our GM's amazing, or things like that.
I don't like anything you have just said.
Nice. All right, I'm going to hop in here. My third star is going to go to Emerson. He had quite a few assists this week. He's not a perfect player by any means, but he definitely has some chemistry on that line with Zetterlund and Eklund. Second star is going to go to Zetterlund because I like him because he had a pretty good week. And then I'm going to give a tie first star to Eklund, but also Barabanov. Barabanov coming back, and these last couple of games, I thought he's looked good, and he's another player that either they need to be good or they need to be good to flip. So great, and Eklund in general, I think Eklund's getting better and better. I think Eklund just needs in general better line mates, and that isn't a knock immediately to Zetterlund right now or anything like that, or Granlund when he's on there, or those guys. But I think you put him on a core. Let's make him part of an actual core. Once we make him part of an actual core, I think it's going to be really exciting. I don't think he's the player that Sharks fans were thinking he was going to be. I don't think he's the player that the organization necessarily was thinking he was going to be, but I think he's going to be really good either way. And again, I think it kind of harkens back to what we originally saw him drafted as, which is sort of, a new QB. Minnie Thornton, more than I think the Sharks organization really clearly want him to be a high scoring guy. I don't know that will be him. I think he'll do fine in that category, but I think he'll be a critical part. And I just hope the Sharks can time everything else well enough to take advantage of that while they have the opportunity to, or at least make the right decision outside. Hey, beyond that, where are the Sharks right now, you ask? Well, they're in 8th place in the Pacific. And if you're wondering where they are in the NHL, because that's the one you really care about, we know they're in last.
Woohoo!
But just barely. They have a game. They played 40 games. The Blackhawks 39 games. The Sharks have 21 points. The Blackhawks 24. But I tell you what, Bedard being out changes everything, because really that was about that he was propping up the Blackhawks quite a bit there. Sharks are, as mentioned, they've lost 11. So their goal differential is a -84.
Woo-hoo.
So hats off to that. That is far and away the worst in the league. The next worst is, let me just double check here. I believe it's the Blackhawks with -58. Yep. Sharks are a far cry from Winnipeg's +34. The Sharks have games. Did you know that? They play games, guys. They play Toronto again on Tuesday in Toronto. They're on a road trip for a bit here. They play Toronto on Tuesday. Thursday, they play the Canadiens. Saturday, they play the Senators. And then just in case we don't pod because it's a slow week, they do a back-to-back between Buffalo on Monday and Chicago on Tuesday. And then they will be playing back at home on the 20th against the Anaheim Ducks. So that's where the Sharks are right now. Still pretty bad, but
not
marginally better.
record-setting bad.
Wait, but
they're
what?
not record-setting bad.
Bad.
They would have to.
I listen. These games, they've been entertaining. All I could ask for.
They went from unwatchable, to fun to watch hockey with, just so long as you don't look at the defensive end of play.
I wouldn't say they were unwatchable because you wanted to watch them like you want to watch a car accident happen, from a distance.
Even at the start of the season, no.
But I would say they were hard to watch.
Yeah,
because you didn't want to feel bad, and you knew. I don't know about you guys, but I knew the second that they lost, I was getting a bunch of texts every fucking night. What's going on? Why do they suck so much? Why are you asking me? Oh, I have a podcast. Got it. Right. Okay, fair. But, I don't run the goddamn team. Speaking of not running things. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, Couture is a full participant in practice today.
Oh,
Why?
Shit.
Why?
That's going to be so weird. Yeah, I've grown so used to not seeing him on the ice.
Is it weird? Can I ask you a question about that? Because my wife asked me this question.
Sure.
Is it weird that you didn't even bat an eyelash to that?
Which thing?
They had him on in between periods for an interview, and I was like, "Oh shit, Couture's on this team." I'm not joking. And my wife was like, "Isn't it weird?" Because I had the same reaction, and I was like, "Yeah, I just completely forgot that he was on." And she was like, "Does that bother you?" And I go, "Not really, not at all.
No.
It's fine."
I've wanted Couture to be playing on Boston for years. I feel he'd do well there.
What?
Why do you want anyone going to Boston?
For whatever reason, I think Couture and Marchand would get along together if they're on the same
anything,
team.
Couture is a future Leaf.
Yeah.
Oof. Ooh.
By the way, you want to talk about a team that just likes to tie their hands? Woo! You heard about the deal, right? That they're going to
No.
announce next week. Woo! They got a
Did they sign
$11 million contract max.
to
all the way-
Nylander?
Oh yeah, they announced it during the
Oh.
last Sharks game.
So I was gonna
They didn't
jokingly-
announce it they didn't announce it publicly. They're announcing it apparently on either this weekend or Tuesday.
sorry.
I can't remember what it was.
Who's getting a max contract?
Nylander.
Oh, okay.
See, I was gonna jokingly.
I thought you said
suggest
Domi, and
that-
I was like, what?
that would have been hilarious. That would have been so leafy that it would have been hilarious. But I was gonna joke that Greer was gonna wait for Toronto to just explode and then pick up Nylander to round out his Nordic set.
Unfortunately, he's going to do that with somebody like, I don't know, Tomas Tatar.
Oof. Well, oof. Yeah, a few years too late there.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, it's likely 8-year, 11.5 million.
Oh
Those
my
guys, those
God.
those guys
Oh my
are. I'm not saying he's not a good player, but those guys are definitely a fan of putting themselves in absolute cap hell.
That's-
Although
that's
they
like-
although they wiggle out of it, so you know.
that's almost half their cap on their top 6. That's nuts.
They got Mark
yeah,
Jones in there.
but but the Sharks only need to win 2 more games this season in order to, at least tie the worst season ever. So, there's hope. There's hope. It's not going to be the worst season ever.
Yeah. Well, you can subscribe to this podcast and hopefully not rate it 1 star after that on the Apple Podcast app. Android people, I don't know. Check out Spotify, I guess. Check us out on the web at circlingthecup.com. Of course, on the X's, I can't call it that.
On the
Twitter.
Twitters,
I
Just-
can't
you
call it
just
that
call it
either.
Twitter.
I wish it would
It's
just
Twitter.
burn in hell. I can't wait for it to be done. But anyway, at Circling the Cup for Ben's thoughts mostly. And of course, you can check us out on Facebook, facebook.com/Circling the Cup, where we pretty much just post the live things and take questions if you have them. And of course, we have a Discord, which is blah, 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 blah. Ben will post it or something like that.
Sure.
And that concludes several weeks, like the holiday season, suppose, of Sharks hockey. Guys, say bye-bye.
I just want to point out that Martin Jones has a .932 save percentage.
oh my God.
I never hated Martin Jones.
You should have.
What the?
Why?
What
Because he
the
took us to a cup.
And then he sucked.
Yeah. Well, no. The team was
No.
injured and out of gas, my friend, and it was a
Yeah,
terrible
the-
matchup for them in general.
And then he sucked.
Yeah, the team died on the ice. I mean, you can only take so many breakaways before something's going to go in.
Yeah, Blackwood and Kakinen would agree.
Yeah. Oh my God, Blackwood had some amazing saves in that Toronto game.
Are we done or are we not done?
We're done. You didn't say bye yet.
Yeah, we're done.
I did say bye. Martin Jones has a .932 save percentage.
Yeah, if that doesn't close the door, then I don't know what does.
Bye.
Vlasic definitely can't close the door.
Yeah. Oof.
All right,
I
that
mean,
was
his
fun.
wife closed the door on him.
Low ass.
All right.
Right there.
All right.
All right, guys. Good stuff.
Wave and smile, boys. Wave and smile.
Wave and smile.
Thanks for the star. Appreciate it. We'll talk to you guys later.
Bye.